What's up? I'm Jason Visenberg.
And I'm Michael Visenberg, and welcome to Viseland. Jason, what is up with you?
Well, what is up with me is that, this is a good, glad that we're back because last week, I don't know if you were watching or listening, but we had a bit of a power outage during the middle of it. So shout outs to our good friends at Portland General Electric for not keeping their end of the deal up during a little bit of a windstorm, but
yeah,
we managed to keep together. But which great news for you guys because we're going to continue what we were talking about last week with his rookie check-ins. We're going to give you a part 2. So going to get a little more rookie pulse of what's going on with the new guys. But other than that, I mean, just watching James Harden in Brooklyn.
Yeah, it happened. It finally happened.
And it's funny because everyone made fun of, James Harden at the beginning of the year for being overweight. And then they see his first game in Brooklyn. He looks like super jacked. And they're like, oh. Yeah, these guys get themselves into shape all the time. I mean, like football players I know like sometimes come in overweight. And then like 2 weeks later, they're back where they need to be. Like it's
these guys run so much, and James Harden, I think, has been constantly at that way. And then, as we saw, like in his first game, what he of the season, he played the Blazers and got 44 points and like 14 assists. Like the guy's absurd. And
totally, and yeah, it's a good like I mean they played Milwaukee the other night, and it was like that last minute was just like Harden and Durant. Like Harden misses it, gets the rebound, gives it to Durant. Like they beat Milwaukee with they haven't practiced a ton together, Harden, Durant, and everybody, and no Kyrie, who's coming, making his way back, to the court. It's gonna be a pretty tough team out east. Like it's
well, I think they're the favorite, and James Harden is worth everything they gave up if they win this championship, or like I feel like they're going to be incredibly competitive, and when you add Kyrie Irving into the equation, like James Harden and Kevin Durant are like top 5 to 10 best players in the NBA. Kyrie Irving is in a bunch of players like just outside of that, and has been the second best player on a championship team, granted with like, one of the best players of all time. But Kevin Durant, one of the best scorers of all time. James Harden, one of the best scorers of all time. Kyrie Irving, incredible isolation creator, shooter. They all can shoot. They all can pass. James Harden's defense is something that gets written off all the time. But I think defensively, like, they're not going to be terrible. And Kevin Durant has always been pretty good on that end.
He's been pretty apt on
time. Kyrie Irving certainly like holds his own, and James Harden is good in certain scenarios there as well. So I think they're going to be so dangerous as a trio. They still have Joe Harris as a shooter. They have their guy DeAndre Jordan. They have Jeff Green. They're definitely going to be a really, really tough team to defend night in, night out. And then once they get to the playoffs, like all of them have experience. Harden's
the
only good. It's going to be good. It's going to be, these are all guys who teams really have to focus on in a playoff series just individually. And now they're all together. I know there's just one basketball, but I have a feeling that it's just going to be really, really tough to defend those guys in a 7-game series.
Well, Harden's not adverse to getting some good, having good assist numbers as well. So he's kind of got
Kyrie. I know people talk about Kyrie being selfish, but obviously James Harden is like the passer and the guy you kind of want the ball in his hands there. I feel like they're all good passers in their own right. Like you have nobody that's just going to be like jacking up shots, and I just don't see like a real weak link with any of them.
Yeah, what a special package for Steve Nash.
Like a lot of offensive strength with each one. Like because you're not worried about shooting with any of them. You're not worried about getting to the basket with any of them. It's just like they have the whole floor covered. And it would be one thing, like people mentioned, like with Kyrie and everything, like, why not trade for Russ? Well, Russ can't shoot.
Yeah,
So
totally.
Kyrie can shoot.
Well,
Kyrie is like clearly on a different level than Russ is an offensive talent at this point.
Yeah, and obviously Russ and James Harden did not work last year.
No.
So it's like why would you replicate that? No,
I don't think that was a serious thing, but yeah, it was just I saw that was one thing that got kicked around. But yeah, power went out for me last week. Much thanks to my co-host Jason Visenberg. Thank you, Jason, for getting the episode up, for saving the episode. And it was just crazy when all of a sudden everything went to black and I saw Jason's frozen face there. But luckily we recorded enough and we figured we'll give you some more rookies this week. We wanted to talk about a few that we didn't get to last week, and we'll add just a couple more for to
and honestly, the benefit of waiting a week too is get a little bit more sample.
Indeed.
On some of them.
Well, benefit and to some maybe.
No, but I mean, that's why bigger sample size. If you test more, you're gonna find more cases. So I mean, that's kind of that same thing for some guys playing. But yeah, we'll pick it up where we left off. We're talking Tyrese Maxey on the Sixers out of Kentucky. He did play really well in that shorthanded game where the Sixers were down to the bare minimum, the 8. They play 7 of the 8. I know he chipped in 38 points that night, so that was a pretty big game. But yeah, how are you feeling on Tyrese Maxey's fit in Philly right now?
It seems like he's doing a great job. Like he was a guy that I was always really high on, just in comparison to the rest of his high school class and to that freshman class. And a guy that we got to see it in the EYBL and played for Houston Hoops. He was just always a great 3-level scorer, and he was that at Kentucky. Didn't necessarily kill it from 3-point range, and some people worried, is he a point guard? Is he a combo guard? He's a scoring guard. He's always been a scoring guard. But the good thing about Tyrese Maxey is he makes good decisions. So he's a scoring guard who isn't going to be like this heavy turnover guy. He's not going to force things. He's kind of like has that veteran understanding already, and that was always his reputation. And he has been starting the last few games for the 76ers, mainly while Seth Curry is dealing with COVID-19 and everything there. And as Jason did mention, he did have a 39-point game against the Denver Nuggets. But yeah, since then he's been so in his last, I guess, 6 games, he's averaging 18.8 points per game, 3.5 assists, 3.8 rebounds, only shooting 27% from 3, but 50% from the field overall. Yeah, it certainly seems like he was a guy that immediately was getting some playing time for the 76ers, who had a really good start to the season. They've had a few bumps in the road since, dealing with COVID, dealing with players being out. But yeah, Maxey looks really promising just as like this kind of scoring guard off of the bench for them.
Yeah, I think for him it was like a good speed and tempo player to kind of bring in, especially off the bench. But obviously now he's spotting in for Seth Curry. But yeah, I think again, 3-point shooting for a lot of rookies, always a place to stand and improve. But yeah, he's less than a turnover a game right now. He's about 2.5 to 1 assist a turnover right now, which again, still smaller sample size. But no, it looks like it's a really good fit for the Sixers. And I think this will hopefully give him a good experience, because the Sixers, again, are one of those teams. Obviously, we just talked about Brooklyn, but I mean, the Sixers also hope to have aspirations of being, in a decent place in the playoffs.
Yeah. And, they really did need some depth, and they need some scoring. The shooting, obviously, is something that you really hope around Ben Simmons. But Tyrese is a guy that has always been just fantastic in terms of body control and his ability to score around the hoop. Even has some ways to get his own shot at times. Has done a few things in the in the pull-up game so far as well. So yeah, he's just somebody you're really confident with in terms of getting offense and being part of an NBA offense. And it was, I was really surprised he went to the 21st pick. Like we at Viseland had him in the lottery for quite a long time. I had him higher than even where we had him mock draft. But he is somebody that right now he's the third leading rookie scorer in terms of points per game, and at 11.4. And it looks like, once Seth Curry gets back, obviously I think his role will change a bit, but he is somebody that I think the 76ers are going to rely upon as a rotation player, which, considering the fact that, they're a playoff team with aspirations of getting past the first round, that's a really positive step as a rookie. And yeah, I think he was a steal at 21.
No, totally. And I think, again, like good counterbalance to like the way Seth Curry plays as well. Cause like Seth's obviously like that shooter, but I think Tyrese, you're getting a lot, speed, crafty kind of attack. So I definitely think it's a good like balance of the guards. And yeah, hopefully he'll get some good exposure run in the playoffs. Cause I think Philadelphia, again, they're one of those teams that are super at a crossroads of if they can't get past, the first, even second round, it's like, what is that team doing? They did bring in Doc Rivers.
Probably trading players.
Yeah, they're just one of those, yeah, they're very much at like only maybe a year or two left of this core until they have to start like figuring something else out. Yeah. Or trying to, obviously they missed out on, in the Harden sweepstakes, but no, Tyrese Maxey, I mean, I definitely proven as still, this draft has been interesting in a lot of ways too. Cause yeah, like a lot of the guys that are a little later on the board have been, being pretty impressive so far. And moving on with that, we are going to talk about somebody that obviously we have talked about before, and we're probably going to talk about again. Boston Celtics point guard Payton Pritchard.
Indeed.
And I've already put him in the Hall of Fame, but I can back that off to just multiple time All-Star. But no, in all seriousness, no. For me, with Payton, having watched him for a very long time, I'm just very pleased that he found a role. Obviously, with Kemba coming back, that is definitely like minutes will probably maybe drop a little bit. But just the fact that he's been able to come in, get his shot off. He's shooting pretty well. He's shooting about 43% from three, and really just being someone that his teammates like. And this is again a team that is going, has those playoff aspirations. Like thought they were going to the finals last year, up until obviously losing to Miami. But I think it's been a very exciting thing seeing him again. Like Payton's one of those guys that really worked his way onto that NBA draft radar, or it didn't look like this was something that was really in the crystal ball for him like 3 years ago. I mean, I was back to kind of, his sophomore, junior years, kind of had some struggles. And you're like, yeah, like second round was a good hope going into last year. You're like, if he can just get in like, 50 to 60 range, like that would be super awesome. And he really he plays when there, and then he's proving that he is a player that belongs in the NBA. So to me, that's super, super exciting.
Yeah. I have to say that when like initially I knew he was going to be a really good college player. Like that was for sure. I had the chance to see Payton quite a bit in high school. And the thing I was always impressed with was that he kind of played up to his competition no matter where he went, was really impressed with his work ethic. And even like, just his ability to create off the bounce and as a shooter, the confidence there. So yeah, like as a freshman, he is a point guard on a Final Four team. That's impressive. You have at least 3 other NBA players on that team, one who we will talk about later, who was unfortunately injured during that run. But yeah, like they had pros there and he fit in. And then as a sophomore, I thought, he showed some positive flashes. As a junior, I was a little down on him. I'll admit it. Like it got to the point. I remember that UCLA game where Oregon blew that huge lead, and being there and Payton just refusing to shoot, which is something that I had never seen from him.
Yeah, that's not, and that's
he has so much confidence and then just refused to shoot in that game. And I was like, what is happening here? But then his senior year, I just felt like he really put a lot together and then was starting to have the efficiency to go along with the fact that he was taking all of these like audacious shots. And then I felt like he improved in terms of decision-making as well. Like Oregon as a team heavily relied upon Payton Pritchard for all of those years, but especially as a senior. And that, you know, shooting over 40% from three was, I think, in the low 80s and as a free throw shooter as well, which kind of, you know, quelled some concerns because at times his free throw percentage wasn't as high as you would hope, like a point guard prospects would be. But yeah, like the concerns with him, just as a first round prospect, I think that a lot of people had, they weren't sure about his defense. They weren't sure about his, you know, like ability to get his own shot. And I think he's definitely like answered some of those concerns so far. First off, like he can get his shot in really tight windows. Yeah. So that's always been something that he's just been fantastic at. The other thing that really impressed me when he was a senior was his ability to at times put like players in the basket and like use that. He's not incredibly tall, but he's like 6'2", has like a 6'4" or so wingspan, got up to like 200 or so pounds. And at times he was really killing some of these smaller guards. Yeah. Like and in the NBA, it seems like the physicality hasn't necessarily been like this huge thing for him. And he was always quick. He always had ball skills. And I think the decision-making has been a process that he's kind of excelled at on a really good team. But the other thing that I will point out that Zach Lowe pointed out in his 10 Things I Like column for ESPN this past Friday is that Boston was playing so much better with Payton. Like his on-off numbers were really good. And like Jeff Teague is a guy who at one time was an all-star, but you have to think that like Payton Pritchard was playing better than he was for a majority of these minutes. And I know people were saying like, oh, how does he beat out Tremont Waters? Well, he did. And the fact is that the other smaller guards who the Celtics drafted have not played as well as Payton Pritchard. And he's doing a good job. Like, yes, like long season, many things to come, but he's doing a really good job. He's showing that he belongs. And I've been really impressed so far. That game-winning shot against Miami was,
yeah, and again that's confidence from the coach of putting him on the court. Like, granted, yeah, no Kemba there, but still, like he's in the right place at the right time, and you know he can be depended on to be on the court, you know, in those crucial moments. So yeah, I'm hoping you know this is a great chance, you know, to really just play a good role on again a team that's hoping to go to the finals. It's really going to push for that, especially with Brooklyn. Like it's going to be a pretty intense series if it gets to that point. Like obviously,
I don't know.
Again,
I'm not sure about the push for the finals. I still feel like there are still things that need to happen with that team. I feel like Milwaukee and Brooklyn and Miami, like there was a reason I had them a little lower than some of the other teams. And, you know, obviously it's been terrible that Jason Tatum's been out. And I think that's a large reason of why they've had a few struggles of late. But yeah, I have just been really impressed with Payton Pritchard and his ability also to be an off-ball player and still provide value there as well. At least try on the defensive end. I know a lot of people would point to his off-ball defense and everything. Well, Oregon played in his zone. And there were times where, yeah, like I remember somebody showing a play and like it was clearly like not even his responsibility in the zone. I always felt like he did pretty well in passing lanes. And yes, he's not like a crazy athlete and he's never been like a really good vertical athlete, but I just think he's a smart player and a really good shooter. And yeah, like his ability to be that kind of like off-ball shooter for Boston, I think could be a real positive for them moving forward.
Yeah, and honestly, earlier in the season, but like hashtag basketball, like on their little rookie ranking, like he's number 5, and then they're kind of combining a lot of statistical things. So I mean, just good start again, because in that late first round, like you're really just hoping to find some value.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always just a good thing to find, because I mean, I can look back to a lot of experience just as a Portland Trailblazers fan of getting someone at anywhere from in that 20 spot and beyond, and literally having them make no impact throughout their career. So you're really just hoping to find somebody that could really come in and provide a spark of some kind for your team. And yeah, just again, as an Oregon alum, always very, very proud. But speaking of shifting from Payton to someone who had Oregon in his top 2 in recruiting, but obviously that's usually a sign that you're going to go elsewhere. We're talking Cole Anthony out of North Carolina, coming in. He's a little didn't go as high in the draft as he could have at a certain point. He was kind of in that really top sort of talking, like out of high school. I mean, he was number 3 RCI, but yeah, really coming in to Orlando and kind of getting some good time. This would be interesting too. Markelle Fultz being out probably allow him a little bit more time as well. He started 6 of his 14 games so far.
Yeah, it has been a rough go, I would say. Like, certainly a guy who I think I felt was like a little underrated by the draft community, but there were some definite concerns. So coming in, like through his play in USA, in EYBL, at Oak Hill, in the high school all-star circuit, the thing you notice about him was supreme confidence and ability to like knock down pull-up jump shots and create opportunities for himself. I think the thing you were hoping a little bit more was his ability to get to the line, get to the basket, and finish at a good rate. And that did not happen in North Carolina. And his play at North Carolina left some really concerned. Also didn't like kill it as a decision maker. And this guy who was seen as like the number 1 point guard prospect and one of the top players in a class that kind of seemed to lack like star power at the top, but you thought Cole at least had a good chance because of his shooting projection. And I would say underwhelmed. And obviously at North Carolina last year, like he got hurt and they had like monumental spacing issues. So that seemed to definitely cramp his style as far as like trying to get to the basket. But I think what you're seeing early with Orlando is that he has kind of had some of those same struggles, he hasn't really found like a great. He's done fine as a pull-up shooter, like he's not killing it yet. Still a small sample size, but I think now the fact that he's having to play these huge minutes, like you're even seeing like his efficiency slide down that much more. Orlando's, I think, lost their last 6 games. And it's been yes, he's averaging 10 points per game, but it's been a
but he's a scorer. Like, he's a scorer. Like, that's what his primary objective is to do. He's going to push that. Yeah, I think like outside shooting has been pretty not so good, about that.
No.
20% is like not what you're for out of again, someone that wants to, that's trying to actively really be your, a primary scorer. So yeah, I think, probably consistent.
Been bad. His shooting's been bad. His scoring around the basket has been bad. The decision-making has been all right. I don't think the defense has been out of this world. And he's always been a guy that I kind of thought had some pretty decent defensive instincts and could make a few plays there. But yeah, was never considered like an out of this world defender. And obviously rookie point guards, it's a really tough, like translation. But he's had a really rough start, and Orlando, like it definitely doesn't help that Markelle Fultz got injured. He was a guy that I felt would have been really great, like next to a Cole Anthony, and like to have Cole Anthony play with him. Cole Anthony, I think the main projection that you saw with Cole Anthony was that he wasn't a guy that you wanted to be your point guard. He wasn't somebody that you wanted to run your team. He was somebody that was going to be very good next to like a bigger initiator or somebody else who could handle the ball, and he would stretch the floor. And I'm guessing he's probably a little overextended at this point in time. But yeah, Orlando has had a really rough go these last few games. And Cole at least is going to have a chance to get time, make some mistakes. But yeah, you'd like to see him up that efficiency. And until like Orlando has been a team the last few years that's been fighting for that last few playoff spots in the East, and they look like they may be on the way out. Which, yeah, obviously you lose two guys who would have been starters, like Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac. It's been tough, a tough go for them, and they lost DJ Augustine also to Milwaukee, bringing in a rookie like point guard who isn't necessarily even a guy you want
like a pure
initiator. It's tough. It's tough, and yeah, Cole has struggled. He's always been somebody that I believed in that class. But yeah, it's hard to really make any like excuse for just the lack of efficiency at this point.
Yeah, but he's gonna get plenty of playing time. Like that's not gonna be.
Yeah, he's going to have to, and he's made his free throws. That's a very good thing. But yeah, shooting only 22% from three at this point,
and 32%
from the field. His true shooting percentage is 41.2%. That is really bad. And yeah, like just well below an NBA starting point guard, or really somebody that you want as your rotation point guard. So yeah, he's definitely having some growing pains at this point. But yeah, give him some time. And Orlando obviously going through a really tough time right now with the injuries to some key aspects of their future.
Yeah, no, that Markelle Fultz one was tough. I mean, Isaac, obviously, going into the year, he wasn't going to be playing, but yeah, it's going to be probably them in the, on the outside looking in from the playoffs in the East. But like Cole Anthony hopefully gets a chance to at least get a lot of time and hopefully figure some things out to get a little bit more prepared next year. But moving on to another guard, we're talking Desmond Bane, Memphis. Obviously he was playing a little bit more, obviously Jaws back, so maybe might not be as many backcourt minutes, but Desmond Bane's been having a pretty solid rookie campaign over there in Memphis. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he's done what I think the Grizzlies were hoping when they drafted him, and that's shoot the ball at a really solid pace.
Because on the opposite end of Cole Anthony's, like 22, he's at 40, almost 49% right now from three again. Well, early, small sample size, 13 games, but again, that's good indicator.
I think one of the reasons a major reason that many in the draft community really liked Desmond Bane and kind of thought he should probably be in the mid first round kind of area rather than the late first round or possibly second round. He almost slipped to the second round. His shooting profile was ridiculous. Like he had a tremendous shooting profile from his 4-year college career at Texas Christian. You just shot absurdly well at TCU as a senior last year, was doing it in so many different ways also, able to shoot off motion, able to shoot off the bounce, had some creation ability, was a really good passer. So yeah, I think the big thing with Desmond is he was a senior. Texas Christian never really killed it in the NCAA. They played in a tough Big 12 conference, and they rarely were able to, crack like the top half. But yeah, he just put together a really impressive college shooting resume, and has been able to do that in the NBA as well. And I think with that resume, with the versatility as a shooter, his at least effort on the defensive end in college, and he was always the guy who's like 6'4", 6'5", but had like a 6'4", 6'5" wingspan also. So not like incredible length or anything like that, but really, really strong. And yeah, he's been a fantastic shooter so far. And that's been able to, keep him on the floor. He hasn't necessarily like killed it off of the dribble so far, but he's been fantastic as a catch and shoot player for Memphis. And I think that is going to get him minutes next to Ja. And, with a team that needed shooting, that needed help on the wing, Desmond Bane was a fantastic choice, and he's been really good for them so far.
Yeah, I think for Memphis, like wing, consistent shooting, like a natural shooter. I know like Dylan Brooks, like he puts a good volume of shots. He's not afraid to do that. But as far as like consistent shooting, I definitely think that's where Desmond Bane will probably come in a little bit more. Just like again, like catch and shoot. Because yeah, they have plenty of guys that are going to want to dribble the ball, and obviously Ja is going to be that primary person with the ball in his hands. But yeah, it should be interesting because I think Memphis is hopefully poised to make that jump towards the playoffs. Obviously, probably towards the lower end, but I think it's he's got himself in a very good situation because I think over the next few years they will be within that playoff talk. And if you can keep shooting like that, you will definitely find the floor.
Yeah, well, they're like right back in the thick of things. They had a rough start to the year, but yeah, right now I think they're hovering over 500.
Well, and I thought Ja would be out, like a little longer possibly too. So yeah, like I think it's
really quick recovery from sprained ankle.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
He's in the lineup because again, obviously that sets their whole pace and tempo. But
For sure.
It's exciting to see.
Still no JJJ so far. Like that's the other amazing thing. Is that they still don't have Jaren Jackson Jr. You're hoping eventually to get Justice Winslow. So yeah, they still are missing a few people. I think Jonas Valanciunas was I think might have to miss some time also. I thought it was some COVID protocol kind of thing, but yeah, they've had some guys that have missed some time, but they've played pretty well over the last few games. They won a close one against Phoenix the other day. Memphis right now, I know obviously very early in the season, but they're at the 8th seed. Like,
yeah.
They did not start off the season very well, so they've really picked it up. And I think a large part is due to the addition of the next rookie that we're going to talk about.
Because yeah, like speaking, talking in their front court, having Valanciunas out, but you have Brandon Clark, but obviously the rookie we're talking about is Xavier Tillman Sr., Michigan State.
Yes. And they have won their last 5 games. And Xavier Tillman Sr. only started the last one, but has played pretty big minutes in all of the he's been a rotation piece since he's started playing this season. He's only played in 8 games, but he has been I think over the last his last 2 seasons at Michigan State. First off, he was a freshman with Jaren Jackson Jr. Got playing time there. As a sophomore, I think started a few more games. I know Nick Ward was there also, but yeah, I think Nick Ward had some injury issue, whatever it was. Xavier Tillman Sr. got into the lineup and has been fantastic since then. One of the best in the NCAA as far as box plus minus. He is an immovable force as a defender and has fantastic instincts there. Was always a great passer, was gifted in the short roll situations. so yeah, he's and like does all the dirty work, like, you know, great screen setter, so strong, amazing hands. Like his hands are enormous. So he has like Kawhi Leonard level hands. And he has been like a guy who was another person that draft Twitter loved, because they're like, well, these are all these qualities that you want in at the very least like a third big or like a backup big. And he's a guy who even could give you like some utility as somebody in the playoffs, like almost immediately. And so far has lived up to that. Certainly like picking it up over the last little bit, but last 3 games he's been in double figures as a scorer, and just looks like somebody who is going to be like that third or fourth big for Memphis and get some playing time and provide them some really good minutes.
I told you, I think that big frame, and I think they were super happy on draft night when he stayed on the board until the second round for them. But yeah, like shooting pretty efficiently, 56% from the field. He's getting 1.3 steals, which is, pretty good defensively, because again, that's what you're really having him in there for. And I think it's that kind of first big off the bench that kind of gives you that energy boost. Just comes in and be tough. I think that's like the definition of what he's bringing. So yeah, I think it's going to be nice for Memphis, because again, if they're poisoned for those playoffs, they're going to need somebody like that to really be able to be tough and to really, set some good screens and really just hopefully, frustrate the opposing big guys. But I think, second round, again, like you're hoping they make the roster, let alone having good impact, early in their career. So huge get for Memphis, because, especially Jared Jackson Jr. has been out. You just need some good depth there. And I think hopefully this will be a good experience for him as well, just getting to get this much playing time while these guys are out, and then kind of refine his role once they're at full capacity. So yeah, I think it was a very, very super solid get. I think Memphis was one of those teams I think we talked about on draft night that did very well for themselves.
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic draft for them. Like these guys, to me, were probably the 2 best senior prospects. And you figure with seniors, these are players that are likely going to come in and probably be a bit more physically and mentally prepared to contribute in the NBA right away. And both of these guys have been contributors for Memphis out of the gates. So really positive start for both of them. And it looks like just 2 super solid picks for Memphis at 30 for Bane and 35 for Xavier Tillman Sr.
Yeah, and moving on with Memphis sort of as a pivot point, we are talking about University of Memphis player Precious Achiuwa, Miami Heat. He's been able to get in some games as of late. So definitely, dude, he was someone that again on draft night had a lot of people very divided. He ended up going 20th, but people had him as high as that, kind of late lottery. People had him in the second. Like there wasn't like a good gauge on how people really thought of him. I guess it was kind of a little all over the place.
Yeah, he was a little polarizing. I think I just kind of wondered what he thought about himself. And from having seen him like at Nike Hoop Summit and being nominated for the Julius Erving Award, like Precious is a guy who has great physical attributes, very strong, really good athlete, like amazing straight line runner, and he even has some lateral ability as well. But he also, just in terms of like feel on both ends of the floor, shot selection, shooting just in general, there were concerns, and there were always concerns about him thinking that he was like LeBron James and that he was this wing. And I think Miami drafted him with the hope that he would be like a backup center. And that was like a perfect scenario to put him in, like not even a backup center, but like a backup big, like a 4-5
Yeah, because he's kind of in that tweener. That tweener was kind of like his rep and coming into the draft a little bit.
Yeah. And like, some people, he basically is close to center size. Like he's a guy who's maybe like just a bit small for a center, but I think really excelled at Memphis once James Wiseman left the program and was kind of like decided not to be in college anymore and was screwed around by the NCAA. Once Precious took that center spot, not small forward, center spot, he really excelled. And like those are the things that he's really good at. He's good at rim running. He's good at taking advantage of guys who aren't necessarily as quick as he is or as athletic as he is. And those were the kind of advantage situations that you really wanted him to be in. And right now he's putting up like some really good per 36 numbers. I had somebody comment on our last video when we asked about rookies. Somebody I know said that he fills in for Bam Adebayo and like they don't miss a step. That's not true, but he's at least been doing well. And
yeah, you don't want to miss all of the steps.
Yeah.
He's not Bam.
Well, what Bam does, just in terms of like his ability to handle the ball and his ability to run offense through him, being a better defender, being a better offensive player. Yeah, all those things. Bam's still there. But yeah, I think you've been seeing some really good flashes from Precious so far.
I think he had like
Miami's struggled as well, and like
15 and 10 the other night. I know, like he had a double going on, and like that's that kind of activity you'd like to see. Yeah, Miami not off to the start they obviously wanted, riding that momentum.
Yeah, well, missing Jimmy, and yeah, it's this season has seen a few teams not off to the start that you would really hoped, but yeah, I just think it was a really good situation for Precious to end up in. And like, is he ever going to be the like passing force that Bam has become and like have that ability to run offense through him? You didn't think that was going to happen with Bam. I think even less that would happen with Precious. But if he gives you energy, he gives you some mismatch issues, and just really plays hard and is able to put up production in his brief time on the floor. That's something to really work with after his rookie season.
Yeah, and I think Miami is also down. Like obviously Jay Crowder's gone, so that was kind of something that like, energy off the bench sort of role was there.
Hoping to shoot, I guess, but yeah.
No, like Precious is
going to shoot like that.
Yeah, no, he's not going to shoot it like that. But I mean, he's just going to come in as that 4. You leave the shooting to like Myers Leonard. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you have this guy named Duncan Robinson.
I know.
Yeah.
They don't, and honestly, for a big guy like Olynyk's not a horrible shooter.
True enough.
But he is still
true enough.
He's still Kelly Olynyk at the end of the day, and that's what goes. But Precious is one of those guys that, again, yeah, he was so like divisive on sort of that draft process from a lot of people. So it's just good to see him at least finding a fit, and hopefully Miami gets their stuff together and gets in the playoffs. But if not, hey, at least they.
Oh my God, Jason, let's not go overboard here. I think they're still going to be in the playoffs, but yeah.
But who knows? But moving, staying in the Eastern Conference, Miami's. How long was it ago that they were rivals? But the Knicks. I feel like that was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
When there was like that Knicks like.
It was a while ago.
Like series that would always like break out in fights. Yeah, obviously.
Jeff Van Gundy holding on to Alonzo Mourning's ankle.
Yeah, like those are some times, but we're talking Immanuel Quickley from the.
Indeed, more like Immanuel Nickley, but
also like again, like going into the draft. I mean, the Knicks. There's talk of them needing a point guard.
Yeah, and I don't know if he was the point guard that many fans had in mind, but he's been pretty good. pretty good. Yeah, so he was actually had a kind of a rough freshman year at Kentucky. Was considered one of the top point guard prospects coming in, but always seen as kind of like a more like a combo kind of guard. But he is about 6'3", had like 6'7", 6'8" wingspan, so pretty good size for a guard. I always was respected as a shooter, so I think that was kind of like the upside there. But yeah, the other thing was just, you know, doing work off the bounce and like getting to the free throw line. And he did not necessarily do that a ton, but he yeah, well, actually, yeah, as a senior, he got there, I think, a pretty decent amount. And I think, yeah, like the main concern with him was decision making and just like if he was going to be the guy that you wanted as that like initiator prospect. He kind of it was a little bit of like point guard by committee for Kentucky last year, and so he was kind of I think certainly like in some better situations for himself, like in terms of being off ball. Like he was a point guard that averaged 1.9 assists per game and had 56 assists to 48 turnovers. So it's not necessarily like a guy that you're saying, okay, this is like the point guard of our future, but he shot really, really well. Also like shot outstanding from the line. So last year at Kentucky, he was at nearly 43% from three and 92.3% from the line.
But now in the NBA is 90, like almost 96% at the line.
Yeah.
So always good.
Has missed 1 out of 24 attempts so far, and then shooting pretty well. He just seemed to be like that really nice like scoring force for them. And the thing that he didn't get to do a ton at Kentucky, like he didn't play a ton in the pick and roll as like, you know, creating offense for himself as a pick and roll ball handler, but he did pretty well in those situations. And that's been like his main kind of accumulation of offense so far in the NBA. And he's done really well like in that scenario. Still like not getting to the basket a ton. Hasn't really like killed it as a shooter, and the Knicks obviously have like they've done a little bit better than expected, but they're still a pretty inconsistent team and have really struggled to get offense. But Quickley has been like one of the guys who has given them like a little bit of an offensive boost off of the bench.
No, I told him, look at his like per 36-minute stats. I mean, they look like pretty nice. And again, not getting a ton of assists right now, but also not turning the ball over either. So yeah. That's at least a good place.
Yeah, 3-to-1, like about a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio so far. And yeah, he's been like for a team that needed to spread the floor, at the very least, drafting a guy who had one of the better shooting profiles in the draft, like that was at least going to deal with that. Now, like, you know, I felt like Desmond Bane might have been a little bit better, or most of the people that I knew did not have Immanuel Quickley as a first round prospect, or if they did, like there were some other players who they felt were possibly in front of him in the draft. So it was surprising when he went 27th, but much like Payton Pritchard, the guy who was drafted a pick in front of him, he's been a pleasant surprise so far. Yeah, and yeah, just seems to be somebody who has at least played a nice rotation role in his early tenure with Knicks.
Yeah, again, like late first round value is huge, and obviously the Knicks plenty of chances to get to play, hopefully, because they obviously have long seasons that usually head towards the lottery. But moving on to a team that missed the playoffs last year, but obviously that has not been their norm. We're talking Devin Vassell, San Antonio Spurs. How are we feeling about what he's done thus far? Again, 13 games in, still a small sample size, but like, what do you feel like he's bringing to the Spurs?
3-and-D, baby. That's that was a big thing with Devin Vassell, and he was somebody that I know a lot of draft people really loved. One, because he was a wing. Two, because he had a good shooting profile. And I think three, and actually like the number one reason, was he was an absurd team defender at Florida State and just had fantastic defensive instincts, made so many great things happen off ball.
He's got like the 7-foot wingspan.
Yeah, 6'10", but who's counting?
Well, that's why I did like that's why I did a little hand gesture if you're watching on YouTube, but if you're not, like a little like ish.
Yeah. But yeah, he has been San Antonio, obviously a team that is known for drafting fantastic value choices. And when they drafted Devin Vassell, I think a lot of people were like, oh my God, it's like another one. They're also a team with a lot of wings. And Keldon Johnson was somebody that we mentioned having a fantastic sophomore season for San Antonio and playing a lot of minutes as like their main, like basically three, or I would say even like combo forward. But yeah, they have a lot of really good guards, a lot of really good wings, and Vassell has kind of started to see like a little bit of an uptick in minutes, and is shooting 37% from three. Still not like a huge sample size there. But yeah, he is somebody who I think you're already able to have on the court just because he can play defense. And somebody that, if he can hit a few corner threes and hit like just be like that good catch and shoot player, he is somebody that I think the Spurs are very happy with having on the floor, and has not done a ton off of the dribble so far. But yeah, just hitting some catch and shoot 3-pointers and showing that ability to be a good off-ball player while playing that level of defense. Like a lot of, I would say like rookie season, like parallels to a player who I think now you're thinking is like a wing that you're very hyped on a playoff team in Mikal Bridges. So yeah, I think that's kind of the role that you're eventually hoping from Devin Vassell. And yeah, like not playing like huge minutes so far. He's 17.3 minutes per game, only averaging like a little under 5 points per game. But I think the things that you really wanted to see from him, like in terms of on the defensive end and his ability to hit, catch and shoot 3-pointers, both off to a really good start.
No, totally. I think San Antonio always does a good job drafting and again, like they're kind of in this like roster sort of renaissance too in the next few years of kind of a few players probably hitting the end of their runs.
Yeah.
In San Antonio as well. So, you know, a year or two from now, like definitely there's going to be a lot of playing time opportunity. And I think like just earning those kind of reps right now is going to be pretty good for him. But again, yeah, the defense is definitely there, and that definitely gets you on the court, and especially with Pop, who's the oldest coach of like all time, apparently. So
apparently. But yeah, I just wanted to say great point, and that I also kind of feel like Devin Vassell in a year or two is probably going to take over the starting spot there. And yeah, like you have to figure DeMar DeRozan, new contract coming up. Yeah, like I know they just signed, they obviously have DeJounte Murray, they have Derek White. Yeah, I'm guessing, interested in keeping Lonnie Walker. But yeah, Devin Vassell, just like an embarrassment of riches of like good rotation wing players for San Antonio right now.
No, totally. And speaking of San Antonio, though, if you do get a chance, watch that Tony Parker documentary on Netflix. I highly recommend it. It's pretty cool little look at
What's it called?
I think it's called The Final Shot.
You should know these things.
I should, but like I've watched so many documentaries. But no, it's just a great, like literally it talks about like him coming up from his days in France, like they had this like high school, and it was like Tony, Boris Diaw, Ronny Turiaf, and like just going from juniors to the NBA and just, his whole kind of career trajectory. It's pretty cool.
Tony, Boris, Roni.
When you look at his home, another benefit for people that are thinking about playing for San Antonio is the lack of a tax there, and also the probably price of properties. He looks like he lives on a resort.
Yeah.
His house is insanely monstrous. So his kids are like living their best lives with like a full like water slide park. But yeah, I know it's cool. Super cool.
Tony Parker, The Final Shot is the name of the documentary. I looked it up.
Yeah, it's a good little doc if you're, looking for that Vassell need, because he really had a great impact on the game in, obviously for us as NBA fans, but also like in France, like huge. And now he owns, he owns a team now over there. So it's just a really cool look at him as like a player and a person. So can't recommend that enough. But speaking of this French theme, we want to talk about not a rookie, but we want to shout out the excellence of Chris Boucher.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. Like, there's really no other way to say it. As soon as I saw him play for Oregon, he was somebody who I'd heard about like in high school playing for Alma and going to a prep tournament and just tearing it up. I asked my friend Carl Berman from Net Scouts about him, and he said, oh, he's a little bit old for class. He's really skinny, doesn't have the grades necessarily to, basically get to college right away. But a couple years in junior college, last year winning junior college player of the year, ends up at Oregon. The first game I got to see Chris Boucher was the game against Baylor. And for a team that had kicked our butt, I think the year before, having Chris Boucher was really nice. And he was an absolute game changer. Just glided up the floor. Like, his ability to jump, his timing as a shot blocker, just incredibly rare physical and athletic tools. And he became my favorite player for the University of Oregon, like on both of those teams. And obviously Jason and I watching tons of Oregon basketball, it shattered my heart that he for his ACL.
Yeah, that was like so heartbreaking because great team, and it's just like the more you like read about him, like know his story, you're like, it's hard not to root for.
It was just about Chris Boucher. Like I was torn up. Like I was like, not that I would want it to happen to any other player, but like, why him? And
so it put his draft stock obviously very in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Which like people, had a hard time projecting him for the NBA, but yeah, like the ACL basically makes him undraftable.
Yeah. Goes to the combine, measures in at 182 pounds. Like what? Like 6'9" without shoes and 182 pounds. What? Like, what are you supposed to do with that? And, like, remember when Nerlens went to the combine and measured it at like 207 and everybody was freaking out and they're like, what in the hell are we going to do with this guy? And they're like, okay, well, like, he's Nerlens, but still, like, that was at least something where you're like, okay, that's a little scary. 182 pounds.
And he hits a two-way with Golden State, but doesn't really get to. It says
gets cut before they win a ring.
Yeah, so he doesn't get a ring, but like, he played one game in the at the end of the NBA, not in Santa Cruz, and then after that, it's like, where does he find his next step? And like he got very lucky.
Baby.
Well, yeah, Raptors 905. He was G League MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. Because again, the more people are like, how can at his size, he's too skinny. So this, like, he shows up and he gets it done. And I think this year it's just been awesome. I mean, his last few games, he's been about that 20-point scoring clip, 10-inch rebounds. Like it's pretty awesome. And he still doesn't do it in 23 minutes. Like he does it pretty efficiently.
Yeah. In his last 6 games, Chris Boucher is averaging 20.7 points per game, 8.9 rebounds, 3.2 blocks, shooting 54% from 3, making 2.5 per game, and 66.2% from the field, 82% from the line. Absurd.
Yeah.
So I, for one, like, they signed Aaron Baines and they signed Alex Len. They just let Alex Len go.
Yeah.
They're just like, okay, yeah. Like, Chris Boucher is obviously going to get a ton of time at the 5. For as much as you worry about him guarding other 5s, he's such a mismatch. And he like just crazy athleticism, crazy movement ability for somebody that size, and then has the ability to stretch the floor as well.
Yeah,
So,
well, that's why he's
an incredible basketball talent.
He's not your post up 5, but he gives you that stretch ability, which is just
huge. Now you would like to see it, like last year, barely played in the playoffs. You wonder what's going to happen once he gets to a situation where it's more half court oriented and where he may have to play a little bit more post defense or do something like that, or just a little more physical game. But yeah, he's proven that I think a really good rotation big at the very least. And this year he's playing a big role for the Raptors. They've started to do at least a little bit better. And they have won their last 3 games. And Chris Boucher is playing this like huge role. So yeah, like definitely in the running for early most improved player, and somebody that I think as the season progresses, like you could really see there.
And if you go back to our previous episodes, we were doing our season preview. I believe we had him on 6-man and most improved player sort of watch list. So
if you did, then I'm impressed.
We're not the Simpsons, but sometimes we can kind of predict the future.
Yeah, but yeah, we want to give a shout out to Chris Boucher. If you guys do watch on YouTube, which thank you to everybody who has, the jersey behind me for every episode has been a signed Chris Boucher practice jersey. And just an all-time fave and ecstatic at how well he has done in the NBA. Crazy to see that he's the best Oregon player in the NBA.
Yeah.
So that's just an amazing story for somebody that went undrafted. Injuries being a huge part, but yeah, obviously, even the story was that at Oregon, they weren't sure about taking Chris Boucher because he was 180 pounds.
Yeah.
And they let him scrimmage. He killed it. And they're like, let's give it a shot. And it worked out brilliantly. So yeah, very, very glad that Chris Boucher is slim duck. And we're just really, really happy with how he started this season. But yeah, we covered 14 NBA rookies. Hopefully, I know we didn't cover all of them. We could get into more, but I have to say that for a class that was kind of seen as being a down year, a lot of guys playing some pretty solid roles so far. Obviously, there's a lot more to this season, and we'll see what happens there. And yes, star power hasn't been incredible. Outside of LaMelo and Tyrese Halliburton, I think it's even those 2 guys, are more like star complementary players at this point rather than actual all-stars. But yeah, those 2 guys I think are the front runners for rookie of the year. But a lot of other guys playing some really nice roles and with bright futures. You always find at least some rotation talent in every draft at the very least. And I think there's quite a bit here. So yeah, it was cool to go over this. It was much cooler that my power didn't go out this time. And luckily the weather's been nice in Portland the last few days. But yes, much thanks to my brother Jason for saving the last episode. And thank you again to everybody that watched this one. Jason, what are your closing remarks?
Basically, as much as it pains me, I do want to thank the people at Spectrum and LADWP for keeping my power on and my usually I hate you people, but separate aside, hey, it worked. But no, again, thank you guys so much for watching this. It's been cool just again doing this. We talk so much about the draft, but now that they're kind of in it, taking a look back at this draft class and realizing like, yes, it's not the greatest of all time. It's not like 2003, but it's not terrible. Like, I mean, you have a few guys that can really, are going to have some solid roles, and hopefully, like, I think like Lamelo is someone again that will have some improvement. So, maybe he becomes on that all-star fringe, but again, just cool to take a look, but appreciate you guys coming, checking us out. And, if you're watching us on YouTube, you know what you got to do, that subscribe button. You got to like smash it beyond belief. Also, make sure you get your notifications on so you get notified when the new episodes do come out, which is Wednesdays. But hit that. And then if you're on a podcasting platform, thank you so much for listening, and definitely, leave us a review, subscribe, tell your friends, and let the word be known, because we appreciate all the support we've been getting, and a lot more basketball left. We're right in the kind of this very meaty part of college and NBA seasons right now. So definitely a lot going on. But yeah, if you like us both, you're loving what we're doing, give us a follow at Viseland on Twitter. You like me personally, give me a follow at Visenberg. You like him personally, you give him a follow at NBA Draft Mikey V. Thank you guys so much, and we will catch you all next week. Have a good one, everyone.
Later.